Art.
Exactly.
Okay.
Watching the snooker in between is definitely the most rock and roll thing you can do.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah. You just like bang to it. You go, hey everyone, it's
Oh,
Kristi.
sex, drugs, rock and roll, and
Snooker.
really boring men playing a sport that really should remain mostly in pubs. Really,
Or
let's be honest.
on national television. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
as we pointed out, throwing pointy, sharp metal things at a piece of wood or cork. That's also great
Well, actually,
sport.
no. It's mostly synthetic versions of horsehair now. So you're factually wrong about the construction of dartboards. Shame upon you.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about the darts. I'm like, they make darts out of horsehair. How is that? Is that aerodynamically better than plastic or what, feathers? What? Anyway, hey guys, yeah, you're just kind of We're continuing our conversation from before on air. So
But
welcome to.
we told you fucking people what this series was going to be. You've basically walked in on two people having a conversation. The fact that
Loudly.
they allow you in at all, you should be fucking grateful.
In the table next to you. These people won't shut the hell up. So yeah, welcome to Kristi and Kevin's happy hour.
Yes,
How are you doing tonight, Kev?
I'm very well, General. How are you?
Yes, at ease, soldier.
Well, that makes me sound like I'm possibly hiding an erection now. Which thank you for that image. That's
But
beautiful.
now it's an image we all have.
And I like to share. It's my gift to the world.
Yeah, scrub your mind's eye. No, I mean, and not to say that, that we're like, oh, now I've put my foot in it. And I want to like try to walk that back and say, no, actually, that's a very pleasant image. Because then, yeah, we're just going to move on. Anyway, guys, for those of you who showed up to the hangout earlier, you'll know that there's one that was scheduled and there was some time mix up because of time zones in different parts of the planet being organized. Anyway.
Let's just be honest. You two were on time, and I
Yeah.
totally bollocked it up and got it wrong by 12 hours. So
Only 12 hours.
only 12 hours. But to be fair, if Tim will insist on, well, I mean, you live in a slightly incorrect time zone, but he lives in a ridiculously incorrect time zone. This is going to happen from time to time because you're dealing with a simpleton who happens to live in the correct time zone. So.
And most of the time, we do it at this hour. So when you saw it on the planner, you probably just sort of assumed the 10 o'clock at night because that's normally when we would start, or often when we start. And yet, yeah, if you had read the conversation, we said to Tim, "Oh, you're always doing it really early in the morning. We could do it in the morning this time, so it could be night for you." And then, but yeah, Kevin wasn't on board the whole time change train. Woo woo! You got off at the earlier station.
Indeed, indeed, sir.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about things that we're going to talk about anyway. So you can listen to Tim's take on it, and then we're going to listen to Kevin's take on it.
Yeah, and if you already listened to that one, I imagine this is probably going to be rather boring for you. So, I mean,
yeah, pick.
I'm not saying click off because that would be a terrible thing to say. I'm just saying you probably heard it.
Except for people on your channel who won't have watched the one on my channel, so they should definitely stay watching.
Well, exactly, yes. Yeah, and they should definitely stay watching because reasons. So
yeah, because we have this way of
self-promotion for the win.
Yeah, because we talk about terrible things, and yet somehow we still manage to have a nice conversation doing it.
Yes. Are we doing trivia now?
Yeah, let's do some trivia. You want to give me your trivia tidbit first? And actually, are you able to watch the chat? Are you going to challenge the chat to see if they can?
I am
figure out the answer.
Well, I have it on top chat for absolutely what the fuck? Sorry, for no reason. So I'll put it onto the live chat and see if people are actually talking.
Is there any difference between the top chat and the live chat? I thought that was the same thing.
I don't know.
Why am I
anyway,
asking?
I'll watch the chat, but it's just gonna be the same sexual deviants, cultural Marxists, the totalitarian fascists
who follow you.
Sorry, I'm channeling my inner Peterson there. Yeah.
By the way, Kevin did take up the role and told the chat "fuck you," since you weren't there earlier in the day.
Oh, well, that's good of him. Thank you. And also, he owes me royalties because that's trademarked. Anyway, yeah, sorry, go on. I don't think there's anyone in the chat. Hang on. I'm trying to get the chat to work, but maybe no one's said anything. So I've said hello. There you go. Anyway, right, trivia. How many landlocked countries are there in Africa?
Quite a few.
There are quite a few.
Um,
I need something slightly more specific than that for a
that's not a
in a
precise
pub.
answer. I am going to take a wild stab in the metaphorical dark and say 14.
Oh, not bad. 16.
Oh, right.
Botswana, Burundi, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Chad, Ethiopia, Lesotho, Malawi, Mali, Niger, Rwanda, South Sudan, Swaziland, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe.
I did do Model UN at university as an undergraduate, and one time we represented Burkina Faso at the nationals, which we won, by the way, came in top. But yeah, so maybe there was some latent
So
Burkina Faso landlocked African country knowledge floating around that gave me a
I like the
ballpark.
fact that the whitest person ever was representing Burkina Faso.
Oh, it
Uh,
wasn't just me. It was a bunch of white people from Oshkosh, University of Oshkosh. It was, like all of us were white. I'm pretty sure. Casting my mind back. It's a long time ago now, though.
well, exactly. Wisconsin, the only black people in Wisconsin play for the Packers, basically. Yeah.
Well, there's also the Bucks and the Brewers, so
Well, yes, okay,
Milwaukee.
fair play. They're professional sports people who aren't from Wisconsin by and large.
Yeah, so that's your bit of trivia. Then mine again is a non-sports related one. And it does come again from the trivia page because I'm completely unoriginal. Now that I found this really good resource of place where I can find information on trivia, I'm quite happy to take what I can get. So the wording of the question from, and I'll give credit to paulsquiz.com, not getting any money from them, by the way. Samhain literally means end of summer, and it is a Gaelic language word. What is its direct English equivalent?
Sorry, can you say that again? Because I thought you were saying a name of someone
Oh,
who's
right.
called.
No, so yes, Samhain is a word that literally means the end of summer. It is Gaelic language, a Gaelic language word, and I'm asking for the direct English equivalent.
Okay, so the end of summer.
You might also, I'll give you a little hint, be familiar with a holiday that's known by Samhain.
Oh, I have no idea. Whitsun. I don't know.
It actually, in the nearest English word is November. And the Samhain is like also associated with the Halloween time, the tradition, the Gaelic tradition along there. So there you go.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that. Now you do.
Well, now I do. Exactly. So that's two pieces of disparate knowledge that might help you one day in a pub trivia quiz thing. But the thing is, I have this terrible feeling that we'll do. Well, I say terrible feeling. It's absolutely inconsequential to anything real in life. But I have a feeling that either one of us will go to a pub quiz one day and be asked the question and be like, "Oh shit, it was on an episode, and I can't
we read this out."
That's especially if it's a bit of trivia that you self gave out to the audience, and now you're like, "Oh fuck, I can't remember what that was."
Well, or it was Kevin told me, what was it? Tell us the difference was it was around 2 feet, but it wasn't exactly 2 feet. Actually, it was
wasn't
2 feet.
Exactly 2 feet. It was 2
feet. It was
2
2 feet 2 inches.
2 inches.
I was also off by 2 countries this time with how many landlocked countries there were.
Centimeters. I remember that. There you go. I've learned what 2 feet and 2 inches is in centimeters, and I'm never going to be able to use that. So it doesn't really matter. Anyway, are we going to talk shit all night, or are we going to talk shit about something slightly more serious?
Oh yeah, let's talk shit about more slightly serious shit. Do you want to start where our hangout left off last time, which was not knowing the reason why David Silverman had been like kicked off the board? He had not yet at that point, I think, been terminated.
Well, you nearly gave me a great bit of news then when you said he'd been terminated, which would be pleasant. That's a joke, by the way. I'm not calling for the murder of David Silverman.
No, he says he wants to play Arnold Schwarzenegger's part in the Terminator the next time they reboot that.
Well, exactly, and he's a sex pervert as well. Exactly,
so, well, an adulterer for sure. Oh yeah, no, he's a sex pervert. You're right. He was harassed women. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Severely, and of course was famous for his penchant for grabbing boobies, I believe was his phrase. Anyway, yes, and just a dubious fucker all round. Anyway, yes, right. David Silverman. Yeah, we didn't quite know what had gone on, but this is where I will give my gut instinct, a gut instinct, a pat on the back. Now, this is just anatomical fucking madness. But I will give my gut instinct it's due because it came through on this one. I said
A
that
round on you? Oh no, that was, you don't want to drink anymore
no, I'm never drinking again until probably tomorrow.
the next time.
Yeah, yeah, we didn't know that we didn't know what happened, but I sensed my telepathic ways that because the American atheists are such a reprehensible group, and they often are actually. I mean, they're really poor representatives of American atheism or American atheists, and but the fact that they had been brought to the point where they had, suspended him at that point. I don't think they'd fired him; they'd suspended him from his role or
Right.
whatever.
While the investigation was going on
Yeah,
by an independent person.
yeah, that suggested to me that something very serious was afoot. Because if this was in any way, even sort of vaguely defendable, they probably would have done. I think defended him, and they decided not to. So, and then it comes out obviously that allegations, which I believe they still are at this point, have been made about his not only his financial dealings but his serial abuse of women, basically. And it surprises me not a jot, given, like I say, the American atheists took that action. I mean, and it's just the way in which he has been defended by so many in the community only goes back to the point we were making in the last episode, wasn't it? That they've created an absolutely toxic environment and a toxic atmosphere within the community, as it were. Which, and I can perfectly well understand why women want no fucking part of it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize that. I was waiting to see if you were going to continue. Right, so right before we went on air, or while we were on air, the announcement came out that they had fired him for cause. And then about an hour after that, the BuzzFeed article about him came out.
Yeah.
So a couple of other pieces of information before we move on to have more of a general chat, just to throw information out there. Apparently, my understanding from the people on the internet who I trust said that Seth Andrews and Matt Dillahunty are both on the board of American Atheists. But the board has been really quiet in terms of they put out very limited information. And I was basically pointing out I hadn't heard anything from Seth Andrews I'm blocked by Matt Dillahunty, and I asked if he had said anything because, of course, they did react to the Krause announcement and BuzzFeed article. And then people told me that they're on the board. I don't know if they voted, if they're voting members, or who voted, or who was at the meeting, because the board hasn't said. But yeah, that was there have been people criticizing the board, saying they want to know more about the process and was it fair, and the usual sort of crappy defenses of men who have credible accusations made against them. But then there's also been a lot of people who I've seen on his Facebook post, which Silverman has now taken down, calling him out. And so there was a mix, but unfortunately there were, I think, half, it was maybe 50-50 of people condemning him and people saying, you don't have due process and this has gone, too far and all that.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And you haven't mentioned that Facebook post where he strenuously denies the allegations. The fact that he's now taken that down again, it's just a gut instinct. I don't know, but it strikes me as possible a sign that he knows he's certainly guilty of more than he's letting on, if not necessarily the full batch of allegations or whatever. So it really wouldn't surprise me to learn that all of them were true. What will come of this, who knows? Hopefully, I mean, it seems like crimes have been committed, so hopefully the law is brought to bear upon him, because this, I mean, if the Me Too movement has done anything, it's to bring it to light. But ultimately, nothing changed until you start to see justice.
Yeah,
Actual justice, not just a verbal sorry or something, but actual justice for crimes committed.
It was strange that I didn't see as much. I sort of expected as much pushback as there was on the Krause thing, and maybe it's because Krause is more high profile and internationally known, whereas Silverman is, pretty much limited to the U.S. and known to atheists maybe around the world if they pay attention to American atheists. But there was a point that Gothic Intellect made on her channel. She had some great rants, and I don't want to demean them by calling them rants, but she was really speaking a lot of truth in her videos about the Krause situation. And she reported that comments on her videos defending Krause or attacking her pretty much died out right after Christina Rad's video came out. And she sort of saw that people who trusted her because they knew her for a long time and followed her for a long time, when she came out and she made her video and she demonstrated it, that seemed to quiet people who had the types of people who were previously coming to Krause's defense.
Yeah,
And there was a very muted defense of Silverman I saw online as well, in comparison and online.
yeah, I think a lot of people who are just reflexively going to support people like Krause and Silverman, basically anyone who's accused, because essentially they want a rapist's charter to be enforced, whereby men can get away with whatever they want. A lot of those people have been burned by the Krause Rad admissions, if that makes sense, or her coming out and giving that story, which itself is sort of a it's quite sad in a way, because basically the whole thing boils down to the fact that people trust her because she's been around for a very long time. There's been nothing but trustworthy, it would seem, in her dealings, and isn't like, she's not overtly feminist or anything, so she's sort of seen as like she doesn't have skin in the game, so to speak. And so people inherently trusted what she had to say, which is a damning indictment of the way in which women are usually treated, it seems to me, because if you juxtapose the way in which people took her word on faith, whereas other women who come forward, you can have 10 women who come forward and won't be treated, their entire 10 stories won't be treated with the same level of seriousness as her one, even though her one didn't involve anything near as serious as those other 10 cases often are, which when we talk about actual rape and sexual assault, whereas in the Christina Rad story, it was fucking hideous and creepy and an invasion of privacy, but I don't think any crime actually took place there. And yet people trusted that story much more inherently. And like I say, if you juxtapose that to the way in which women are usually treated, it shows you the insidious rape culture that exists on a really basic level, where people will distrust any story that comes forward.
I would hope that the experience of seeing someone describe something to you, even if someone who was favorable to Krause went to watch the Christina Rad video and was favorably disposed to her and had more empathy and saw what she described and saw how she was nervous about it, and suddenly I hope some light bulbs went on about what a credible accusation looks like. Right, because she has no motivation to lie. She prefaced it with a lot of sort of conditionals about she doesn't think she was hurt and she's been through worse in the past and everything. She had to do all of this effort to soften any criticisms of her or anticipate criticisms of her or even downplay her own experience to get legitimacy in these people's eyes, which was really disturbing. But when you see an accusation in a news article, you just see it on text. But there's a person behind there who's had that experience and is telling what happened to them. And I think her video was really important in putting a human connection to a lot of the fanboys, to what it sounds like when somebody makes a credible accusation. I know she got criticism as well, but I think there was a lot of praise for her coming forward and telling her story because of the impact it had with her large audience and the trust her audience has in her.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people have essentially rape apologists, rape advocates, have been far more reticent when it comes to subsequent issues with David Silverman, because they don't want to get burned again, because presumably they know in their heart of hearts that both Krause and Silverman are guilty, but they thought they could get away with defending Krause and it backfired, and so they've, once bitten, twice shy with Silverman.
And certainly in the case of, Krause, there was the allegation that he pushed someone on a bed and started to take a condom out, which is assault, and in terms of I don't know the legal definition on a cruise ship, but to me, if you're pushing people around, that is not being in a consensual situation. But with Silverman, the accusation is so severe of physical assault that left bruises. Not a violation. Like a 4th-degree sexual assault might be grabbing someone's butt, and yeah, you're violating their personal space. But if you grab their butt so hard it leaves bruises, that's another level of criminality because of the force you're using. And yes, it's kind of, I think it's difficult at least I would find it difficult for somebody who read that to then somehow use the Krause excuses for Silverman, because they played a lot of it off. If he was hot, these women wouldn't have minded. kind of thing, you remember, and a lot of excusing his lecherous behavior and his invasion of personal space and people's bodies, but the actual that he didn't leave bruises on any, or at least no one's come forward with that allegation, and that's a real serious level criminal, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so that we missed that on our last show, so wanted to follow up on it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was it was important to give a little bit more information now that we have that information. Yeah.
What was the other thing we were talking about?
Smalley and well, basically you becoming Generalissimo. Thing.
Well, I did go over this on the Tim stream, so I'll try to do a condensed version. But the story begins with David Smalley asking for money, him getting pushback from a lot of people on Facebook, some support, but also people taking him to task for things. One person posted in response to what Smalley had written. So in his appeal for money, Smalley said that he wanted, he'd left a 6-figure income and he was doing podcasting and it started out well, but now he's not making enough to make ends meet. And so he has this goal to meet in terms of the number of patrons that he has supporting his content. And that would also include paying his staff in that amount of money. And someone scoffed at that idea. Actually, we read it out in the Hangout last time, I think, right? The Facebook. Yeah. So people should know the background. If you don't, go watch that episode. And I put that on Twitter because it seemed very credible. This person was close to him, close to the show, had witnessed multiple instances of harassment, had been harassed at one point, and I said, don't support him. This is what somebody said about what kind of behavior his behavior. And yeah, then that was on April 10th, so it was a while ago. But on Friday, I got, or Saturday, the times now are all starting to blend together. But he added a correction and told me that I should take it down because it was a lie. And he used as justification that this person was a liar the fact that they had been let go or fired from his show because they said things that were offensive. But saying things that are offensive are different from lying about things. So he was sort of trying to discredit that person by appealing to a different reason.
It's rather interesting given that he then went on to Carl, I wouldn't even rape you. Joe.
Right. And then I was saying, you saying it's a lie and that's what you're saying, but this person is saying they had this experience. People can read it, they can look at it, they can make their decisions. But then I pushed him on precisely this point because he had gone on Mythicist Milwaukee's channel on YouTube, and I watched because I saw that and went on and watched at least 45 minutes of it, and it was just three men whining.
And again, of course, with his supposed hatred of offensive speech, this is the organisation that tweeted out their sadness that David Silverman had been let go, even though we now know what he's been up to. Brilliant.
Well, they did delete their tweet after the BuzzFeed article went up, so they did.
But even so, this is the point. This is the point I've made to people. If you reflexively always support the people being accused, and I'm not just saying you remain balanced and say, okay, well, I'm taking no sides in this. If you literally always come out and defend the rapist, you're going to come a cropper eventually, because you might be able to get away with it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, but eventually a rapist or a sexual assaulter, a creepy fuck, is going to get outed, and there's going to be lots of evidence, and you're going to be undeniable, and you're going to try and do the kind of dare I say, slightly Stalinist rewriting of history by just deleting the tweet and pretending it never happened. But we know it happened. We've got receipts, motherfuckers.
And to not excuse the Mythicist Milwaukee Twitter account in terms of like the BuzzFeed article and deleting it, when Silverman was let go, the articles about it or the board statements about it talked about financial improprieties. Information was brought out that there was a woman hired on staff, and it was learned that they were having a sexual relationship, and the person was let go. The woman was let go. Whether or not there was like a thing going on, whatever it is, the board decided that it was inappropriate. And yet the Mythicist Milwaukee guys are like, hey, David, come to our conference. Well, no, they didn't say that. But it was immediately, as you said, jumping to his defense and taking his side and not taking the decision of the board seriously.
Well, look, if you just look at the kind of people they've invited to their event over the last couple of years, their lack of any sense of moral decency is so apparent. It really is. That I suppose we shouldn't be surprised, but it doesn't mean we should be any less disgusted.
Yeah, not only did these guys know that Thomas and Carl were going to be discussing the Jess Phillips tweet, they didn't tell their audience that they didn't warn their audience members in any way, which led to many people in the audience feeling uncomfortable, some feeling unsafe. And they brought back a guy, they platformed and then brought him back for a second year, a guy who engaged in online sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And then, as you pointed out, Smalley went on to Sargon's channel, and Sargon is a man who has engaged in online sexual harassment. So when David Smalley came to me saying, this is a lie, I would never do these things, I'm like, yeah, but just in the last week, you've been on with guys who are platforming 3 men in the next in MythCon, who are known as men who've engaged in online harassment, sexual harassment of women. And you went on Carl's show, and he did the whole "I wouldn't even rape you" tweet. So you're saying I should take this person's account down of you sexually harassing people because it's a lie. And yet when I see you going on the shows of people who support and platform men who engage in sexual harassment and who engage in sexual harassment. So square that circle for me.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's not guilt by association if you're denying a claim and yet any semblance of truth to that would be totally obliterated by you associating yourself with these people, you saying it's absolutely fine that these people have done these things, even though it's then hypocritical because, as I said, if his excuse was this person was let go because of offensive comments, then I'm sorry, but Sargon, there's no way you would go on Sargon's show if that was real.
Yeah. And then he invited me on his podcast to talk to him about it.
Yeah, come on my show and let me earn money off you, Krista.
Precisely. And that was my objection. And then someone offered a third party, being Polite Conversations, and Ina, and I agreed to it, and Ina agreed to it, but we've not heard back from David Smalley. And I listed all the things. I want to talk to him about his Kraus statement, and I want to talk to him about his Patreon pledge drive, because he said here he wants to make money enough to live on and pay his employees. So how much is he going to be paying his employees? How much does he pay himself? I think if you're going to ask people for money, there's some transparency there that people should know what their money is going towards. And then, yeah, let's talk about your appearance on This Is Milwaukee and with Carl. And then let's talk about what this person posted on your thing. And let's have that conversation.
Let's not bury the lead here.
Right. Sorry. You wanted to, I'm going to let you savor this moment by going ahead and relating it to our audience.
Oh, it was so ridiculous. Someone's a friend of mine, Katrina McKay, who does YouTube videos. Actually, I'll link her channel under my thingamajig. To an Australian woman, was doing a dissection of that hangout between Sargon and Smalley, and she said, "Do you know Carl referred to Kristi as a general?" Now, I didn't quite understand at first because I was quite drunk. She said, I'm not an alcoholic, I promise. Like, this is the same. She said, and I thought you meant he was talking about you in general or something like it was a typo. And I thought, well, okay, he's talking about Kristi in general. Fine, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just, of course he is, okay. And then she said, no, he's talking about Kristi as a general. And I thought, well, hang on, I'm going to have to listen to this. And I'll go ask him the timestamp. And he literally does. He goes through some tweets that you'd sent out or some Facebook messages, and then David Smalley's going on about you leading a cult or something, and then Carl goes on about you trying to win a culture war and says that you're a general. So literally that you are a general in like the SJW, I don't know, army, I suppose it would be, or whatever. And I just thought, that's brilliant. So from now on, you must address Winters as general.
Well, to quote from Hamilton, I am the model of a modern major general.
Well, to be fair, you're not really quoting from Hamilton.
No, it's what is it? Her Majesty's whatever, Gilbert and Sullivan, I think. That's referenced in Hamilton. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it HMS Pinafore, I believe?
I think so. Although I don't know the next line from HMS.
Well, no one does, because it's that horrific patter singing. I am the very model of a major general.
That was fantastic, Kevin.
Oh, thank you. But like you said, that's the only line I know. So something about orders categorical at some point as well, but I don't know. Anyway, so Kristi is now the general. That's been decided.
Right. Also, we're being told that we could be a little bit louder, so I don't know if you can get a bit closer to your microphone. I'll try to turn mine up a little bit too.
Oh, sorry. Am I not being fucking loud enough for you? Well, how about you turn your volume up? Jesus.
Am I bothered?
Exactly.
Right.
Do I give a shit about you fucking proles? If Kristi can hear me, that's fine. If you can't, fuck off.
So it was pretty hilarious that Carl called me this sort of general, and also sort of disparagingly that I'm tactical and that I know what I'm doing, but I'm not very good at it. This after he's been labeled a I wouldn't even rape you guy because of the attention I got to him at MythCon. But yeah, I'm not very successful when I run a campaign.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I can't help but feel that given all your activities, we should give you a promotion from general. Field marshal, possibly. I don't.
That would be it. He picked general, not admiral. That would be fun. Admiral Winters. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
General Winters.
Then it's definitely naval, isn't it? I'm not sure. I'm not very good at sea, to be honest.
No, I'm not either. I don't. I have sort of an anxiety about drowning. So I wouldn't do well in a submarine or in kind of boat.
Yeah, my friend once said that he had a phobia of drowning, and I thought, well, that's not a phobia. That's a perfectly rational thing.
Yes, it is. You're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Entirely rational to be afraid of drowning.
Yeah. Look, I'm not scared of flying. I'm scared of the plane crashing into a fucking mountain. Again, not a phobia. That's fine. I'll get past it. Don't worry. I can do it. But, it's still dying. And, of course, being stuck in a tin can full of other people's farts for 6 hours is not pleasant. There you go.
Oh, and also in terms of Sargon and his assessment of my tactics. So when he showed this stuff to David Smalley, it had received 22 likes and 9 retweets. And it had been dead for 10 days. Oh, there's a guy in a Vespa behind me in the street. They had died down, like nobody else was reacting to it. But he went and responded to it. And I've gotten like a lot more attention. And because he was giving me so much crap too, I'm like, well, look, if you're going to give me this much crap about something that got 22 likes, here it is again, so that people know what we're arguing about. And all he did was bring more attention to something that really was a little blip, because he bought Carl's BS about me being somehow this important voice in progressive YouTube feminism, whatever.
You're like a little mini Soros. You're their little
without the money.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You're a poor, small version of Soros in our community for them. That you're like the hate figure. Oh, you're this terrible, awful person. Which is fun because I can happily have a joke about praising Soros, and I think you're going to have to join that club. And I don't know if you can hear Rory scratching at the back door. So what I'll do is I'll ask you the question from the chat, mute myself for 1 minute, and I'll let him in. There's from Live the Dream, question for Kristi. Regarding religiously unaffiliated women who are leftist, do you see a space for overlap between those who aren't atheist but still support secular humanist values?
All right, and now you're going to mute yourself?
Yes, for a moment, and you can answer the question.
My answer to that would be definitely. In fact, I think that's the kind of space that we should make as atheists in order to grow the movement. So, I think from my assessment, the way I see it is there's this, division more within atheism, with progressive voices coming together, becoming more organized, becoming active against the problems they see inside the institutions, not just the problems we see outside the institutions. And atheism as it has been constructed out of new atheism. And by new atheism, I sort of think of that period of time and shortly thereafter when Dawkins, Hitchens, Harris, and Dennett were sort of riding high.
The four-horse cart.
Quite. Yeah. I think I said quite before I heard the end of your word there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine, because I presume you still agree, because you're just as crude and potty-mouthed as me. Sorry.
It was just surprising. It wasn't what I was expecting.
No one ever expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No, or the SJW Inquisition, for that matter.
Well, exactly. Well, that's a callback, of course, to the title of that hangar. Well done. That's actually a lot of people won't know that because they won't have seen it, but that was actually a very well-crafted piece of wordplay. Bravo.
Ah, thank you. That's what I like about our hangouts is our gay banter. Again, to quote Blackadder, I think it was. But to finish up, I do think that by focusing on secularism, we can create more allies. And because more of the people who are spiritual but not religious are women, and also sort of have more of our political values, that by creating spaces that are open and progressive and aren't about mocking atheism or mocking creationism, which, sorry, not mocking atheism, mocking religion and mocking creationism, where we can do more outreach and see more of the humanism sides that bring us together, that will be a powerful way forward to keep the movement going into the 21st century, in the middle of it, and forwards from there. So, yeah.
Well, an update from Tom McDonald. Hi, Tom. Who's wrenched on your channel, of course. Nice.
He is, of course, because he's a patron.
Indeed.
And a friend.
Well, I'm not a patron, but I'm wrenched as well, so don't start. What is it? Yeah, he's just checked the MythCon speakers, and David Smalley is actually listed as a speaker.
Of course he is.
So you added the caveat of, well, they didn't necessarily, but yeah, they did. They actually did. You gave them more credit than even they fucking worth. I mean, that's amazing.
And again, with the whole how Sargon duped him into his little delusional world about the evil SJW women who are trying to bring him down. David Smalley has 22,000 followers. I have 7. The idea that he would even come down from his level of stuff to deal with stuff. One tweet on Twitter that got 22 tweets, just to me is beyond ridiculous.
That's a tongue twister. One tweet on Twitter that had 22 retweets. That's
say that 10 times fast. Well, this is what happens when I warm up with Hamilton. My verbal dexterity improves.
Well, you are the very model of a modern Major General. So
quite. The venerated Virginian General. Yeah, I should change that to Wisconsinite General. The venerated Wisconsinite General. Yeah, that could work.
Well, you are an empirical lyrical miracle. I know that much. That's not from Hamilton. But
no, that's not.
Anyway.
So, ridiculousness. We'll wait to see if David Smalley actually takes me up on it. If I were him, I would ignore it. But we'll see if he can actually blow that kind of thing off.
Well, I quite like the idea that him talking to Carl, presumably he's realised that Carl was an idiot as well, but a useful idiot on this occasion for him, and thinks, yeah, I could take Kristi on because he's talked to Kristi, and then he falls into the same fucking bear trap.
Oh yeah, I sort of very in a tongue-in-cheek way put Giant Slayer on my Twitter feed. But
well, the general does whatever the general wants. That's just the way. What are you going to do? You're going to fucking question the general? No, you're not.
Oh, as long as we've got the Sargon name brought up connected to the Smalley topic. Did you see that his event? You saw that the event he was going to be participating in today was canceled because the moderator, who was apparently the student government president at the university where he was going to go do this student-sponsored debate, pulled out, and because they didn't have a moderator, it had to be canceled.
Yes, and it was between him and a guy who now goes with the name of Mook on Twitter. It's Zizi, I believe is his name on YouTube. He was a guy that, outside of the rape apologia, can be very, very vaguely interesting about kind of far leftist topics. He's a kind of Marxist chap. But unfortunately, he also does rape apologetics. And he's made several absolutely appalling statements on Twitter, and he's essentially quite chummy with Carl, even though obviously they've got very different politics. But I suppose they can bond over their love of abusing rape victims. Yeah, and they were going to do some fucking debate or another. And yeah, they cancelled it about an hour before, which I thought Carl would appreciate, because that's the best example of real life trolling I've ever seen. Literally just lead him on, and an hour before cut him off. Brilliant. I thought, as a shitposter, he would appreciate the level of craft involved there.
Yes, quite an elaborate troll, actually.
Well, exactly, but apparently it's only funny when they do it. Yeah, so I don't know why. Do we know specifically why the person pulled out as of yet?
Again, this is what I'm going from one person reporting under the tweet where, what is his new name? Mook?
Mook, yes.
Yes, announced that it had been canceled, and they had very briefly written about that it required a chair, a neutral chair, and the chair had pulled out. And they said the student union, so the SU president, that should be technically correct, had pulled out an hour before, and so it couldn't go ahead. And I looked for more, but by the time we went on air, that was it.
And it's becoming quite a regular thing with Carl. Various venues have also, although not an hour beforehand, but have pulled out, because essentially what happens is they take the booking because it's a person wanting to book their venue. They enjoy it. They enjoy. They they get money. They're a business, because he does these live shows and stuff in various places in Britain. And yeah, they then look up who this person is, and oh, we'd probably rather not have this person at our venue, and then they cancel. So it's happened several times.
Have you? I mean, this is the first time. I mean, I knew the whole Antifa interruption thing, where his university appearance was interrupted, and this one. But have you heard of a few others? Because
Oh
I
yeah,
hadn't.
yeah.
No, do tell. Do tell.
Oh, there have been several. There was one in Scarborough, which is in Yorkshire, quite a nice seaside town, and he was going to do a live event there. The venue cancelled. There was one in somewhere like Reading, and then there was another one he mentioned down in the West Country, so the southeasty tip of England, where a venue cancelled. So those are the three that I can think of off the top of my head. But like I say, you've also got this one and the Antifa thing. Yeah, it's various venues and groups are cutting him off now, and that's the thing. But I warned Carl for a long time, right? It's okay being controversial. People don't give a fuck. Like, there are comedy clubs up and down the country who host all kinds of absolutely outrageous comedy acts and all kinds of those kind of old style racist comics. They still get bookings in various places, so you can be like out there and a prick, and you'll still get booking. No one's going to be that offended by that, or no venue's going to cancel or anything like that. What you can't do is pal around with fucking Nazis. If you start doing that and you start making, like, I told him about the Heather Heyer thing when he was on with Millennial Woes. If you didn't know about the subject, you shouldn't have opined about it, and yet he still spread the same shit that they do about her having a heart attack, which wasn't true. She died of a blunt force trauma. She was literally run over to death. She was murdered by a terrorist. But he spread that nonsense and then did very little to correct the record. I'm sorry, people are going to find out about shit like that. And if you're spreading Nazi lies around on the internet, companies, venues, booking agencies are going to find out about that and want nothing to do with you, because that takes it to a different level. That's not just controversial, that's fucking evil. And I've warned him, and yet he's persisted. So, frankly, I find it very difficult to have any real sympathy at this point, because he's jumped the shark so many times now. Venues are going to find out about that and cancel on you. Of course they are.
I mean, I wouldn't, if they Googled him and came across any of the stuff from like the MythCon web entries in 2017, it's all about him and his audience.
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, that I mean, obviously viral, isn't it? That clip that, of Thomas reading it out, and they cheer. Now people are going to look at that and think, is that the kind of crowd he's going to get to our venue? Really? Okay.
But Kevin, I'm a terrible tactician when it comes to these kinds of things.
Well, exactly, yeah. Whereas Carl's got it absolutely nailed down. Clearly sending horrific fucking rape threat fucking tweets to members of parliament. Yeah, that's going to go down really well. That won't haunt you for the rest of your career. No, absolutely not. Yeah, he's a master tactician. Whereas the general knows nothing.
It's so funny.
How can you talk about someone in that way, the general, but then also say they don't know what they're doing? Look at what? That doesn't really kind of add up. He kind of wants to have his cake and eat it, and that's the whole crux of the matter, really, isn't it? That he the SJWs are dangerous, evil, violent, but they're also pathetic, weak, shallow. Oh, you can't be all of those things.
Yeah, we run the world, and we're worthy of nothing more than contempt, because we're so dumb and emotional.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas screaming about it was a fucking woman's march, Bernie, that's not emotion. That's pure logic. Pure logic. Punching the table with reason.
And speaking of punching the table with reason, let's move on to your video about Aiden Paladin and your appearance on Warski. So you want to give us, the audience, a bit background on the context of that?
Yeah, on Thursday I was made aware via a thing that Siobhan Headed does a lot, where she defends a Nazi by pretending they're not a Nazi, then finds out they're a Nazi and deletes the tweet. It's happened several times now. And she did this again with Aiden Paladin. And as the reason that she deleted the tweet was someone posted a 40-odd second clip from one of her videos in which she just straightforward fucking Holocaust denial. And it's not outright Holocaust denial in the sense that she denies all of it, but that's not what denialism is. Denialism spans the range from absolutist denialism through to trying to muddy the waters, and she lies more towards the muddying the waters end, but she still does that, and it's about the obfuscation, the denial of enough facts to try and muddy the waters to provide intellectual cover for the Nazi regime, and that's precisely what Aidan Paladin was doing. So I made a video about 4 minutes long where I took, she made those sort of 4 main points that she made in the video, and I took them apart one by one, where she was factually, historically inaccurate, and pointing to the dog whistles, like the, which she says, quote, death camps. She doesn't say death camps, she says, quote, death camps. So in other words, saying the things that they call death camps, but weren't really death camps. She also says that she about all of the camps being in Poland when they weren't. Both Ravensbrück and Dachau were in Germany, along with various other orbital camps on the border. Anyway, but that's a minor point by comparison to the fact that she also says that in the labour camps it was only starvation that caused the deaths in the last few months of the war, which wasn't true. People were still being worked to death, and people were being executed for transgression of camp rules, which, I mean, in general, if that's where the penal colony laws are in a place at a time, whatever, but it was an illegitimate practice because these people weren't there for crimes. So all of those deaths are still on the Nazis, including the starvation, because if you have prisoners, regardless of how illegitimate that imprisonment is, those are on you. Those people can't go and get their own food. They can't go and get their own medicine. So if they die of starvation or disease, that's still on you. You murdered them, because you have a duty of care to them, because they can't care for themselves. They're locked in cages.
Yeah, that's international law and has been for a while. I'm getting feedback, by the way. Do you have headphones?
Oh, possibly.
Well, will you finish up?
Yes. I'm trying to find headphones now.
All right, well, I've distracted you from your flow, for which I apologize. I shouldn't have interrupted. I wouldn't have heard myself then. But now I'm just waffling while you plug in your headphones, so it doesn't. You don't.
Back in headphones. Where are they?
Kevin is always so prepared for our hangouts.
Exactly.
But you did have trivia. You did have your trivia already, just not your headphones.
Well, exactly. Yeah. What more do you fucking want for free? Jesus.
Just keep talking while you stick them in.
So hopefully they work. Hello?
Yep. Still hear you.
No, those ones don't work. Bollocks. I'll have to turn you down.
That's, you know what? I can't hear myself anymore, so you must have turned your sound down a little bit or something. But
I'll turn my phone down, so I'll just hear you as a whisper. But there you go.
All right.
Anyway, right, where was I? Yes. So she says history is written by the victors, which in that context basically means don't trust the history books. The history books are written by, the Jews, basically. She says that the numbers are highly contentious, which they're not. And she later goes on after the video to say that it was 4 to 6 million, which is incorrect. It's 5 to 6. So why are they trying to lower the numbers? To muddy the waters, to make it seem less extreme, to essentially soft sell Nazism. So I put that video out. Didn't think much more about it. I thought, well, you get some blowback, you get some Holocaust deniers. Any Holocaust denier comments deleted. I'm not fucking around. Usually I allow even the most repugnant of people to put their shit under the thing, because if people want to talk, they want to talk, whatever. But with Holocaust denial or like specific allegations or whatever, I won't allow that. That's nonsense. So they've been deleted. And I'm sure 1 or 2 will trickle through at some point, but that I won't notice. But the ones I've seen have been deleted. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it. And then a few hours later, it turns out that and also, I had a back and forth with Aidan because someone had made her aware of this, and then she'd obviously contacted Andy Warski or something. And Andy Warski, the opening hour of his show was going to be Kevin Logan accuses Aidan Paladin of Holocaust denial, which I thought, okay, but then the way he'd worded it, because he's such a fucking dense prick, made it seem, he said accuses of her Holocaust denial now, and she's being doxed and had her life threatened, which basically made it seem like I'd done that, because he worded it so fucking poorly. I mean, he really does rival Donald Trump in terms of his lack of fucking nous for the English language. It's pathetic. But he did thankfully put out a clarification, so that's something. Anyway, So I contacted him saying, like, why you lying about me? And he said, oh, well, sorry. And well, he didn't actually say sorry, but he put out that correction. And I said, do I get a right of reply? Seems like she's going to go on there and talk shit. He said, yeah. And so I went on. I was only planning to be there for about 10 minutes. And I thought, well, it's obviously going to be not a fair talk, because I'm going to go on there and it's going to be like her and JF and Andy, the rape twins, as I like to call them, because that's what they fucking are. Both rapists. I know. So I thought it was going to be 3-on-1, but it ended up being even worse than that, because they also got Sinatra Says on, who was on her side. JF gave a really misleading quote from a Wikipedia article, which actually backed my point up if he'd read on.
Right, I saw
paragraph. He only read the first line, which made it seem like her definition of Holocaust denial was true, which it isn't. And then some random guy who I've basically called token Uncle Tom Jew, because that's basically what he was, a Jewish Uncle Tom who wanted to sell Jewish people down the river by pretending that this wasn't Holocaust denial and white knighting for her. And that's the point, actually. This was a genuine case of white knighting, because this is a woman who actually is playing damsel in distress. She does this consistently. Whenever she gets called out by anyone, her immediate fallback is, I'm being doxxed, I'm being threatened, regardless of whether she is or not. I mean, how many times can one person be doxxed? She's accused David Surratt of doxing her immediately after he'd called her out for something that she said that was horrible. She accused Crowd of doxing her immediately after he'd called her out for saying something horrible. She accused Destiny of doxing her immediately after the debate in which she'd gone on there thinking she could destroy him, and quite the opposite occurred. And now she's accusing my fans or Antifa or whoever, based on what I've done, of harassing her and doxing her. This is what she does. This is what her fallback position is, to appeal to the, I suppose, benevolent sexism from these obvious sexists anyway.
Right.
I'm saying I'm being harassed, I'm being doxed, and then they go and defend her en masse. It's really, really shady bullshit.
Yeah, it was a really unfair situation. You were constantly being interrupted from what I saw. But I think it was, you were there to give your side and talk about what you were saying and what you had said, rather than having them define everything that you had said in the video, probably inaccurately, straw manning you and creating a narrative without you being there. So, Tim,
yeah, exactly. I just wanted to find my corner, and I did that okay. I got a few quote unquote punches in about, and I got quite a nice one in actually about them hypocritically playing identity politics, because they're so against identity politics, but yet when they had that Jewish guy on, they kept on going, well, he's Jewish. Well, hang on, so that means he knows everything about the Holocaust because he's Jewish? No, I don't give a fuck that he's Jewish. Don't play silly identity politics with me here, especially when you're so against identity politics, but look, you've got your Jewish shield. No, fuck you.
And Tim commented earlier in the day that they were slagging you off basically when you were off air, and it comes across as really bad. If you're going to talk to you're going to talk smack about someone, talk to their face, but they wait till you're off air or when your internet cut out and then just trash you, and then you come back on and then they move on.
Well, these people are absolute scum. And of course, the thin-skinned nature of any of them. Like, I made one slight criticism about Andy Warski having anti-Semites on his show, and he got really butthurt instantly. And you think, you literally do something that you like to call internet blood sports. You can't get offended that easily, mate. You just can't. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Tim and I also had a long talk about hypocrisy and misogyny.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back and listen to that. And yeah, apologies to everyone. I don't know, but we explained, didn't we? I was.
We talked about very different things from the earlier show, so that's okay. But
yeah.
I just wanted to tie it in to things that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'm glad about the whole experience though, because it's been really fun. And I think whenever you get these kinds of things that crop up, like people say this is why they don't do YouTube stuff, because of all the stress and the dogpiling and all this shit. And I understand that perfectly well. But I quite enjoy the thick of that moment, and I also enjoy the fact that Nazis, they out themselves really rather easily. And so that's always positive to do. And I didn't go onto the Andy Warski stream thinking that anyone was going to change their mind, because if you're one of the fucking pieces of garbage who listen to an Andy Warski stream because you think the people there, you know, like the rape twins have any value to add to anything, then you're not interested in having your mind changed. You're garbage. So I wasn't going to try and win anyone over. I was just going to put my side of the story out there, just put it on record. And if they want to slag me off, fine. I'm rather glad that Andy doesn't like me. If he did, I'd have to really reassess what I was doing with my life.
Yeah, fair point. Very fair point.
Yeah.
Well, did you want to keep this to an hour, as is our general tradition? Because we can talk about other things too, but we've got 3 minutes to the top of the hour. So either...
Well, look, I mean, my reputation clearly precedes me, because Logan can go all night if he wants to, but let's leave them wanting more, I think.
Good idea. Good plan.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I guess we also we can end a little bit early because we're usually going over.
Is that coming through on the microphone?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's the cat again. I let him in and I closed the door because the fucking noise. And now he wants through the other door, and he's going to have to wait until we've finished. Now he can fucking wait. Prick.
And we know who the general in your house is.
Exactly.
Well then, guys, I just want to say that everybody in the chat, you guys have been awesome. I've been Kristi. Kevin's been on his best behavior tonight. And people in the future watching, you're awesome too.
No, you're not.
All
hail the ant-overlords.
So, with that said, and on that bombshell.
That's for future people. Well, they understand. It's fine.
Yes. Kevin's going to insult the chat.
Yeah, fuck you, chat.
And then goodbye from me, and goodbye from Kevin. Say goodbye, Kevin.
Goodbye, Kevin. Goodbye, General.
Good night. Good night. Yeah, like Waltons. Oh, that's a really old reference that maybe Tom is going to get, but that's it. I was going to do a good night, Kevin. Good night, Kristi, but it's all right. All right, I'm going to press stop now. Bye, you guys.